The hands will not stop shaking. 96 years on this earth, and they have never been steady since 1944. The doctors say it is age. They are wrong. It is memory. Memory has weight. Memory has teeth. It lives inside you like a parasite, feeding on what is left of your soul. On the table sits a military canteen, dented, scarred. Inside is something I have not opened in 40 years. Next to it, a photograph. 20 young men in Imperial Army uniforms. Summer, 1943. They are smiling because they do not know they are already dead. I am in that photograph, fifth from the left. The serious one, the one who thought he understood what honor meant. My name is Tanaka Hiroshi. Japan gave me a medal. My grandchildren think I am a hero, but I need to tell you what I really am before this body finally gives out and takes the truth with it. I am a cannibal. I ate my best friend, and that is not even the worst thing I did. 19 years old. That is how old I was when they put me on a ship to New Guinea. Still a virgin. Still believed in the emperor. Still thought war was something glorious, something you read about in books where the hero always survives and the enemy always deserves to die. The troop ship was hell. 3 weeks of vomit and salt and 500 men packed so tight you slept standing up. I shared a space with Kimura, 20 years old, fisherman's son from Hokkaido, hands like steel from hauling nets since he was 6. He could gut a fish in 7 seconds. I timed him once with my father's watch. 7 seconds exactly. Blade in, guts out, head off. He bowed when the other soldiers cheered. That was Kimura. Always performing, always making people smile. We became brothers on that ship, not by blood, by fear. When you are sailing toward death, you need someone to pretend with, someone to help you believe you will come home. We made plans. After the war, we would open a restaurant. He would prepare the fish. I would manage the books. We even had a name, Tomodachi, friends. We shook on it. His hand was rough and warm and alive. I can still feel it. 80 years later, and I can still feel his pulse against my palm. The heat in New Guinea hit like a fist. 115 degrees in the shade. No shade. The jungle pressed in on all sides. Thick, green, screaming. Everything there screamed. The birds, the insects, the men at night when the fever took them. And the smell. God, the smell. Rotting plants and stagnant water and something underneath. Something sweet and wrong. I did not know what it was then. I know now. It was the smell of death. The jungle was already eating itself. We just had not figured out we were part of the menu. 200 men, 4 machine guns, enough ammunition for maybe a week. Our orders were simple. Hold the airstrip. Supplies would come every 3 days. Relief forces would arrive in 2 weeks. The Americans were weak, soft. They would break against Japanese steel and spirit. We believed this because we were 19 and 20, and because no one told us that command was lying. The first week was almost pleasant. We dug foxholes. We smoked cigarettes. At night, Kimura and I pulled guard duty together, 4 hours staring into the black wall of jungle. He talked about his father's boat, how the old man would wake him at 4 in the morning, how his hands would crack and bleed in the winter, how he hated it, how he would give anything to do it again. I told him about the radio shop where I worked, how I loved finding the one broken component among hundreds, how satisfying it was to bring something dead back to life. He said I had magic hands. I said no, just patient hands. He said that is the same thing. I remember laughing. It was the last time I laughed for 8 months. The Americans came on August 17th. Not came. Erupted. The jungle exploded in fire and shrapnel, and the screaming started and did not stop for hours. By noon, we had lost 40 men. By sunset, 63. We retreated into the jungle, dragging the wounded, leaving the dead because there were too many dead. Captain Yoshida gathered us that night. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. The Americans had taken the airstrip. They had cut us off. But reinforcements were coming. 2 weeks. 3 at most. We just had to hold. We believed him because the alternative was unthinkable. The supply plane was supposed to come on August 20th. We waited. It did not come. Yoshida said weather delays. Tomorrow, for certain. Tomorrow it did not come, or the next day, or the day after that. By the end of August, we were on half rations. 1 rice ball in the morning, 1 at night. The men stopped talking. Everyone was conserving energy, conserving hope. September brought rain. The jungle became a swamp. Our foxholes filled with water. Mosquitoes came in clouds so thick you breathed them in. Men started to sicken. Dysentery, malaria, dengue fever. We had almost no medicine. The first man died on September 7th. Private Ito, 18 years old. He died crying for his mother. We buried him with full honors. Yoshida read a prayer. 10 men fired a salute. We sang the anthem. We buried the second man 3 days later, then the third, then the fourth. Then we stopped counting. Then we stopped burying them. There was no strength left. By mid-September, the rice was running out. Yoshida told us to forage. The jungle was full of food if we were smart enough to find it. We tried. We ate palm hearts, roots, bark. We caught beetles and roasted them. They tasted like burnt hair. Some men found mushrooms. 6 hours later, they were screaming and bleeding from every opening in their bodies. Their insides had turned to liquid. We left them to die because we could not waste water washing the bodies. Kimura and I shared everything exactly in half. When I found berries, he got half. When he caught a frog, I got half. This was how we stayed human, by keeping our promises. By not becoming animals. But October came, and the rain never stopped, and the bodies started to pile up, and the smell became part of the air, and after a while, you stopped noticing it. After a while, it was just the smell of living. The rice was gone completely by the end of October. We ate grass, insects, leather from boots boiled until it was soft enough to swallow. The men became skeletons with skin stretched over them, eyes sunk deep into skulls, teeth loose in bleeding gums. I lost 4 teeth in November, just fell out while I was chewing bark. I picked them up and stared at them, 4 little pieces of white in my palm. I wanted to cry, but my body had no water left for tears. Kimura's teeth were falling out too. He showed me one day, opened his mouth, black gums, gaps where teeth had been. He tried to smile. It looked like a corpse smiling. We made a joke about it, said we would have to serve soup at the restaurant instead of fish. Said our customers would be old people with no teeth like us. We laughed. It sounded like coughing. That night, I heard sounds from the edge of camp. Furtive, wet. In the morning, 2 Australian bodies that had been left outside the perimeter were gone. So were 3 of our men. They came back at dawn. Their mouths were stained dark. They would not look at anyone. No one said anything. If you do not say it, then it did not happen. Kimura found me that afternoon. He grabbed my arm. His fingers were just bone. He pulled me away from the others. His eyes were wild. We have to promise. Right now. No matter what. No matter how hungry. We do not do that. We die as men. Not as beasts. I promised. I swore on my mother's life. On my family name. On everything sacred. He made the same promise. We gripped hands. His pulse was thin. Thready. But still there. Still human. That night, he gave me half his rice ball, even though we were only getting one every 3 days. I tried to refuse. He forced it into my mouth. Said I needed it more. Said I was smaller. I ate it. I hated myself for being too weak to refuse, but I ate it. 3 weeks later, I broke my promise. But that is not the worst part. The worst part is what happened before I broke it. December, maybe 80 men left. The rest were dead or dying. We moved through the jungle like ghosts, looking for anything at all. I found a snake, small, maybe as thick as my thumb. I killed it with a rock, smashed its head flat. My hands were shaking with excitement. Meat, real meat. I brought it back to share with Kimura, split it exactly in half like always. But when I found him, he was lying in the shelter. His face was gray, sweat pouring off him even though his body was shaking with cold. Fever, the kind that kills you. The medic Sato came, looked at him, looked at me, said nothing, did not have to. I stayed with Kimura, held his hand, wiped his face. He grew delirious, called for his father, his mother, sometimes called for me, even though I was right there. On the 4th day, he could not stand. On the 6th day, he could not speak. On the 8th day, his lips were cracked and bleeding, and his eyes were sunken so deep they looked like holes in his skull. I knew he was dying. Everyone knew. And I felt something terrible growing inside me, something I did not want to name. When I looked at him, I was not seeing my friend anymore. I was seeing meat, 40 kilograms of meat, fresh meat, still warm. I hated myself for thinking it, but I could not stop thinking it. My stomach was eating itself. My body was consuming its own muscles for fuel. The hunger was not just in my belly anymore. It was in my bones, in my brain. It was all I was. Kimura died on December 23rd, just after midnight. I was holding his hand. His pulse got slower, and then nothing. I sat with his body until dawn. I did not cry. I had no tears. I had nothing except hunger and the terrible knowledge of what I was about to do. Other men came. They knew. Everyone always knew. They picked up the body, carried it outside the camp perimeter, laid it on the ground. That night, fires were lit in the deep jungle. I smelled meat cooking. Real meat. The smell made my mouth fill with water, made my stomach cramp so hard I doubled over. I told myself I would not go. I had promised. I had sworn. But my body was already moving, walking through the dark, following the smell, following the need that had replaced everything else inside me. 10 men around the fire, faces hollow, eyes empty, not men anymore. Something else, something the jungle had made. One of them held out a piece of meat, dark, charred. I could see the grain of muscle fiber, could see where it had been cut from a larger piece. I took it. My hand did not shake. That is what I remember most. My hand was steady. There was no hesitation, just the smooth, automatic movement of survival. I told myself it was not Kimura. I told myself it was one of the others, someone I did not know, someone who had been dead for days. I told myself lies because lies were all I had left. The meat was tough, hard to chew with my loose teeth. I had to tear at it like a dog. The taste was wrong, not like fish, not like chicken, something else. Something that my brain recognized, even though I did not want it to. It tasted like Kimura. I knew it was him. I knew it the moment the meat touched my tongue. You cannot fool the body. The body knows. I ate it anyway. Chewed, swallowed, felt it slide down my throat, felt my stomach cramp as it tried to digest something it had not had in months. Real protein, real fat, real food. I ate until the piece was gone. Then I held out my hand for more. They gave me more. I ate 4 pieces that night, maybe half a kilogram total. I ate my best friend, the man who had shared everything with me, the man who had made me promise not to do this exact thing. I ate him, and when I was done, I went back to the shelter and lay down in the place where we had slept side by side for 4 months. I could still smell him on the blanket, still feel the warmth of where his body had been. I waited for guilt, for shame, for horror, for anything human. Nothing came, just the fading hunger and the knowledge that when I was hungry again, I would do it again. But that is still not the worst part. The worst part came 3 weeks later. There were maybe 60 men left by mid-January. Most of them were too weak to walk. We were living in a nightmare that had no end. Every day more died. Every night more fires. More meat. We had eaten all the enemy dead we could find. We had eaten our own dead. Now we were running out of dead. Then something changed. I do not know who started it. Maybe no one started it. Maybe it just happened. The way terrible things just happen when you stop being human. Men started looking at each other differently. Not as comrades, as food, as potential meat. The weak ones knew. You could see it in their eyes. The fear. They stopped sleeping at night, stayed in groups. But groups got smaller. Men disappeared. I disappeared one of them. His name was Watanabe, 19 years old. From Kyoto. He had dysentery, could barely walk. Everyone knew he was going to die. It was just a question of when. I made it sooner. I waited until he went into the jungle to relieve himself, followed him. He was squatting, weak, vulnerable. He did not even hear me coming. I used a rock, same way I killed the snake. One hit to the back of the head. He fell forward into his own waist, twitched once, stopped. I dragged him deeper into the jungle. Cut him open with my bayonet. The blood was hot. Steam rose from the body cavity. The smell made me dizzy with hunger. I cut out the liver first. It was dark and heavy in my hands. I ate it raw. Right there, squatting over his body, blood running down my chin. Making sounds I did not know humans could make. I cut more, took the heart, the kidneys, the thigh muscles, wrapped them in his shirt, brought them back to camp hidden under my uniform. That night, I cooked them over my own small fire, away from the others. I did not share, not with anyone. This was mine. I had killed for it. It was mine. The meat was fresh, tender, better than anything I had eaten in months. I ate until I could not move, ate until my stomach was distended and tight, ate until I vomited, and then ate more. When I was done, I buried the bones far from camp, covered them with leaves, went back to my shelter, slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, someone asked where Watanabe was. I said I had not seen him, said maybe he wandered off, got lost. It happened sometimes. Men got delirious and walked into the jungle and never came back. No one questioned it. Or maybe they did not care. Maybe they had done the same thing. I killed 2 more men before the Americans found us. Both times I told myself they were going to die anyway. Both times I told myself I was just helping them along, just ending their suffering. Both times I knew I was lying. I killed them because I was hungry, because they were weak, and I was stronger, because that is what you become when the world strips everything away except the need to survive. The second one fought back. His name was Taniguchi, only 17. He was weak, but he was not dying. Not yet. I did not care. I waited until he was alone. Came at him from behind, but he heard me. Turned, saw the rock in my hand, understood immediately. He tried to run. I caught him. We fell, struggled. He was screaming. I had to cover his mouth, had to squeeze. His eyes were bulging, looking into mine, pleading. I squeezed harder, felt his windpipe collapse, felt him stop moving, felt his life leave through my hands. Then I ate him, cut him up, cooked him, ate him. And you know what the worst part is? The absolute worst part. It was good. It was satisfying. I enjoyed it. That is what I became. That is what the jungle made me. Not a soldier, not a survivor, a predator, a murderer, a monster that looked like a man. The canteen sits on the table. I have not opened it in 40 years. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely grip it. Inside is a bone. Small. White. Could be from a finger. Could be from a toe. I do not remember anymore. It might be Kimura's. It might be Watanabe's. It might be Taniguchi's. It might belong to someone whose name I have forgotten. I have carried it for 80 years. I do not know why. Punishment, maybe. Reminder. Proof that it actually happened. That I actually did it. I open the canteen now. The bone falls into my palm. Light. Clean. It could be from any animal, but it is not. I know what it is. I bring it close to my face. Smell it. After 80 years, there is no smell. But I imagine I can still smell it. Still smell the smoke and the fat and the terrible sweetness. My hands will not stop shaking. My grandchildren think it is age. They are wrong. It is memory. Memory has weight. Memory has teeth. And it never stops feeding. The bone is back in the canteen. My hands took 10 minutes to stop shaking enough to close the lid. 10 minutes of staring at that small white thing in my palm. 10 minutes of wondering whose finger it was. Whose son. Whose brother. Whose friend. I tell myself it does not matter. They are all dead. I am the only one left to remember, the only one left to carry it. But that is a lie. I carry nothing. It carries me. Has carried me for 81 years. Will carry me into the grave. January 1944. We were not men anymore. We were not even animals. Animals have limits. Animals have instincts that keep them from becoming monsters. We had crossed a line so far back we could not even see it anymore. 60 men left. Maybe. Hard to count because men stopped looking like men. They looked like the photographs you see of concentration camps. Skin stretched over bone, eyes too big for their faces, mouths full of rotting teeth and black gums. We moved slowly, carefully. Every movement cost energy we did not have, but we moved with purpose now. Not looking for food anymore, looking for prey. That is what we called each other in our heads. Prey. I know because I heard men whispering at night, heard them planning, heard them picking targets. The weak ones, the sick ones, the ones who would not be missed. But the weak ones knew. They traveled in groups, never went anywhere alone, slept in shifts so someone was always watching. But groups got smaller. One man would go into the jungle to relieve himself, would not come back. The others would look for him, would find nothing, or sometimes would find remains. Bones picked clean, buried shallow. No one reported it. There was no one to report to. Captain Yoshida had stopped giving orders back in December. He sat in his shelter staring at nothing. Sometimes he spoke, but the words made no sense. Something had broken inside him. The war had broken all of us, but it broke him first. Lieutenant Sato tried to maintain discipline, tried to keep us organized, keep us human. But how do you maintain discipline among cannibals? How do you give orders to men who have already lost everything, including themselves? Sato disappeared in mid-January, just gone. His shelter was empty. His rifle was still there. His boots, his canteen, everything except Sato. We found pieces of him 3 days later, just pieces. Someone had been careless with the burial. Or maybe they wanted us to find him, wanted us to know that rank meant nothing anymore, that officers were just meat like everyone else. After that, there were no more orders, no more structure, just survival, just hunger. Just the endless counting of who was still alive and who might die next and who might be weak enough to kill. I was not weak. That is important to understand. I had eaten well, had kept my strength. The 3 men I killed had kept me fed for nearly a month. While others grew skeletal, I stayed functional, not healthy. No one was healthy, but functional, strong enough to kill, strong enough to hunt. There were 5 of us. We never spoke about it, never acknowledged what we were doing, but we knew. We recognized each other, the ones who were not prey, the ones who had become predators. We could see it in each other's eyes, a certain alertness, a certain way of watching, like wolves in a pack. Not friends, not allies, just temporary non-aggression, an understanding that we would not hunt each other, not yet, not while there was easier prey. His name was Nakamura, 21 years old, from Nagasaki. He had malaria. The fever came and went in waves. When it came, he shook so hard his teeth chattered. When it left, he was weak, confused, vulnerable. I watched him for 3 days, studied his patterns, when he went to relieve himself, when he was alone, when the fever was worst. On the 3rd day, I followed him into the jungle. He was squatting, shaking with fever. He did not hear me, did not see me, just felt the rock hit the back of his skull. He fell forward, twitched. I waited, made sure he was dead. Sometimes they were not dead. Sometimes you had to hit them again, and again, until the skull cracked and the twitching stopped. I dragged him deeper, away from camp, away from the paths, found a small clearing, laid him on his back, looked at his face. He was young, younger than me. His eyes were still open, staring up at the canopy. I should have closed them. That is what you do for the dead. Close their eyes, give them dignity. I did not close them. I cut his throat instead, let the blood drain into the soil. The smell was copper and iron and something sweet underneath. My mouth filled with saliva. My hands were steady. I opened him from throat to groin. The bayonet was dull. It took effort, sawing. The sound was wet, obscene. But I did not stop, could not stop. The hunger was a living thing inside me, screaming, demanding. The organs came out in a rush. Steam rose from the body cavity. The heat was incredible. I had forgotten warmth, forgotten what it felt like to be near something warm and alive. The liver first. Always the liver, dense, heavy, rich. I cut it free, held it in both hands. It was still warm, still pulsing faintly with residual blood flow. I bit into it, raw, right there, squatting over the body. Blood ran down my chin, down my neck, soaked into my uniform. I made sounds, animal sounds, grunting, moaning. I could not stop myself. It was good. God help me, it was good. Better than cooked meat, better than anything. The taste exploded in my mouth. My body recognized it, needed it. I ate half the liver right there, chewed and swallowed and bit again. Could not eat fast enough. Then I heard something, a sound behind me. I spun, bayonet raised, blood on my face, on my hands, on my chest. It was Corporal Hayashi, one of the other hunters. He was standing at the edge of the clearing, watching me. His expression was empty. No shock, no horror, nothing. We stared at each other. I was still holding the half-eaten liver, still crouched over the body, steam rising around me like I was some demon from hell. He did not say anything, just looked at the body, at the liver in my hands, at my blood-covered face. Then he nodded, turned, walked away. That nod, that simple acknowledgement, it said everything, said we were the same, said he understood, said he would not tell because he was doing the same thing, said we were not human anymore, and that was acceptable because none of us were human anymore. I finished with Nakamura, took the heart, the kidneys, the thigh muscles, the buttocks, wrapped them in his shirt, buried what I could not carry, covered the grave with leaves and branches, not to hide it. There was no hiding it, but because some part of me still remembered that bodies should be buried, that there should be some ritual, some acknowledgement. But I did not pray, did not ask forgiveness, just covered the hole and walked back to camp carrying meat. That night I cooked it over my fire. The smell drew attention. Men stared, their eyes hollow, desperate, hands reaching out. I did not share, turned my back, ate alone, ate until my stomach was tight and painful, ate until I could not move, then wrapped the remaining meat and hid it in my shelter, under the blanket, where I could smell it while I slept. I slept well that night, better than I had in weeks. My body was satisfied, fed. The hunger that had been eating me from inside was quiet, just for a little while, but it came back. It always came back. By morning, I was hungry again. That was the worst discovery, that no amount of food was enough, that the hunger had become something beyond physical. It was psychological now, spiritual, a hole inside me that could never be filled no matter how much I ate. I killed again 2 days later, then again 4 days after that, then 3 days, then 2. The intervals got shorter. The need got stronger. I was not eating to survive anymore. I was eating because I could not stop. The last one was different. His name was Suzuki, 18 years old, from Osaka like me. We had talked before everything. He told me about his girlfriend, showed me her picture, a small photograph he kept in a leather case next to his heart. She was pretty, smiling, wearing a kimono with cherry blossoms. He said they were going to marry when he got home, said she was waiting for him, said he wrote her every week, even though the letters never got mailed. He was not sick, not weak, not dying. He was just there, alone, vulnerable for just a moment. I killed him anyway. He saw me coming. There was no surprise attack this time. He was gathering wood. I walked up behind him. He heard my footsteps, turned, saw the rock in my hand. He understood immediately. I saw it in his eyes, the realization, the understanding that I was going to kill him, that he was about to die. He dropped the wood, backed away, held up his hands. Please, please no. I have a girl. She is waiting. Please. His voice was shaking. He was crying, tears running down his hollow cheeks. He was begging, pleading for his life. I hit him anyway. The first blow was not enough. He fell, but he was still moving, still conscious, looking up at me, still begging. Please, please. I will not tell. I will give you my rations. Please. I hit him again. This time the skull cracked. I felt it give way under the rock, felt the wetness. He stopped begging, started making sounds instead, wet gurgling sounds. His body was convulsing. I hit him a third time, then a fourth. Then I lost count. I kept hitting him until his face was gone, until there was nothing left but pulp and bone fragments and brain matter. I was panting, covered in blood, spatters across my face, in my mouth. I could taste it, taste him, sweet and copper. I dragged him into the jungle, did what I always did, cut, carved, took what I wanted. But this time was different. This time I could not look at his face, or what was left of it. I found the leather case in his breast pocket, the photograph of the girl. I pulled it out, looked at it. Her smile, her kimono, her eyes so full of hope. She was still waiting for him, still writing letters, still believing he would come home. She did not know she was a widow, did not know her future husband was being butchered in a jungle 10,000 kilometers away, did not know I was about to eat him. I should have burned the photograph, should have destroyed it. Instead, I kept it, put it in my own pocket, carried it with me. I do not know why. Maybe as punishment, maybe as a reminder. Maybe because some tiny part of me still remembered that this was wrong, that I was wrong, that I had become something that should not exist. I ate Suzuki over 3 days, rationed him, made him last. Every bite I took, I thought about the girl, about her smile, about her letters, about how she would never know what happened to him, about how I had stolen her future. On the third day, I burned the photograph, held it over my cooking fire, and watched her face curl and blacken and disappear, watched her smile melt, watched her hope turn to ash. Then I ate the last of Suzuki and slept and dreamed of nothing. February brought the Americans. We heard them before we saw them. Engines, machines, the sound of civilization cutting through the jungle. We scattered, hid. Some of us tried to fight. They died quickly. I did not fight. I was too tired, too empty. I just sat in my shelter and waited for them to find me, waited for a bullet, waiting for it to be over. They found me on February 9th, 3 American soldiers. They came through the trees with rifles raised, saw me sitting there, skin and bones, covered in dirt and blood and filth. They thought I was already dead until I moved. One of them vomited. I remember that. The sound of him retching, the smell of his vomit mixing with the smell of the camp, the smell of rot and death and burnt meat. They did not shoot me. That surprised me. I wanted them to shoot me, wanted it to end, but they did not. They just stared, horror on their faces, looking at me like I was something from a nightmare. Maybe I was. They found 12 of us alive, 12 out of 200. The rest were dead, or missing, or buried in shallow graves scattered through the jungle. They gave us water, food. We could not eat it. Our stomachs had shrunk too much. The food came back up immediately. They had to feed us slowly, carefully, like we were infants learning to eat for the first time. They asked what happened, how we survived, what we ate. We did not answer. We just stared. What could we say? How do you explain? How do you tell them that we ate each other, that we hunted each other, that we became the thing you become when everything human is stripped away? So we said nothing. Let them believe what they wanted. Let them think we survived on rats and insects and roots. Let them think we were victims. Heroes even, soldiers who endured against impossible odds. They put us on a hospital ship, cleaned us up, fed us slowly. Most of the others died anyway. Their bodies were too damaged, too broken. They died in clean beds with clean sheets and nurses who held their hands. I survived. Of course I survived. That is what I did. That is what I had become good at. Surviving. No matter the cost. They sent me home in April, gave me a uniform that actually fit, gave me papers that said I was honorably discharged, gave me a train ticket back to Osaka. My mother was waiting at the station. She did not recognize me at first. I had left as a boy of 19. I came back as something else, something that looked like her son but was not her son, could never be her son again. She hugged me, cried, said she had prayed every day, said she knew I would come home, said she was so proud. I said nothing, just stood there, let her hold me, felt nothing. I had not felt anything since January, since the day I realized I was enjoying it. She made my favorite meal that night. Fish, rice, miso soup. The smell filled the house. I sat at the table, looked at the food, looked at my mother's smiling face. I could not eat, not because my stomach could not handle it, but because all I could think about was other meat, better meat, warmer meat. I ran outside and vomited in the garden. My mother came after me, held my hair, said it was all right, said I just needed time to adjust, said everything would be all right, but nothing was all right. Nothing would ever be all right again. I am looking at the canteen now. My hands are shaking again. Worse than before. The bone inside rattles. A small sound, like teeth chattering, like Nakamura's teeth when the fever took him. I know now whose bone it is. I have always known. I just did not want to admit it. It is Suzuki's. I kept it, took it from his hand before I buried the rest. The ring finger, because that is where he would have worn a wedding band, where the girl's ring would have gone. I have carried her future husband's finger bone for 81 years. And the worst part, the very worst part that I have never told anyone, not my wife, not my children, not my grandchildren, not the doctors or the priests or anyone. I still taste it, right now, this very moment. 81 years later, and I can still taste human meat, can still feel it in my mouth, the texture, the flavor, the satisfaction. And sometimes, God forgive me, sometimes late at night when I am alone and the hunger comes back, not for food, but for something else, I remember what it was like. Remember the power, the control, the terrible satisfaction of taking someone's life and consuming it. Sometimes I miss it. That is what I became. That is what the jungle made me. Not a victim, not a survivor, a monster who learned to like the taste. And the monster never really left the jungle. It just learned to wear a human face again. The sun is setting outside. I can see it through the window. Red and orange bleeding across the sky like a wound. Like the sky is bleeding. Like everything bleeds eventually. My wife is in the kitchen. I can hear her preparing dinner. The sound of the knife on the cutting board. Chop, chop, chop. The rhythm steady and familiar. She has made dinner for me every night for 62 years. She does not know what those sounds do to me, what they make me remember. The canteen is still on the table, the bone still inside. I have not put it away, cannot put it away. My grandson will be here soon. He is bringing his new girlfriend. He wants me to meet her. Wants me to tell her stories about the war, about how brave I was, about how I survived. He does not know he is bringing her to meet a monster. The repatriation ship docked in Yokohama on April 17th, 1944. 12 of us had boarded in New Guinea. 9 of us survived the journey. The others died in their bunks. Their bodies too damaged, too destroyed. They died quietly. Grateful maybe. Grateful to die in clean beds instead of mud. I was not grateful. I wanted to die too. Wanted it desperately. But my body would not let me. My body had learned too well how to survive, how to keep going no matter what. It was a machine now, a machine that had forgotten how to stop. They processed us at a military hospital, checked our weight, our vitals, asked questions, wrote things down on clipboards. They did not ask the right questions, did not want to know the answers. It was easier for everyone to pretend, to write malnutrition and disease on the forms, to not mention the other thing. The doctor who examined me was old. 60 maybe. He had kind eyes. He measured me. 61 kilograms. I had been 84 when I deployed. He listened to my heart, my lungs. He looked in my mouth at my ruined teeth and bleeding gums. He wrote things down. Then he leaned close, whispered. So quiet I almost missed it. What did you eat? Not a question. A statement. He knew. Somehow he knew. Maybe he had seen others like me. Maybe he could smell it on me. That smell that never washes off no matter how much you scrub. I looked at him, said nothing. He held my gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded, wrote something on his clipboard, handed me papers. You are a hero. You survived. Your country is proud. Go home. Forget. Live. But he knew you cannot forget. You cannot live. Not really. You just pretend. You wear the mask. You play the part. But inside, you are still in the jungle, still tasting blood, still hearing the sounds, still hungry. My mother cried when she saw me at the train station. She had been waiting for hours, watching every train, searching every face. When she finally saw me, she collapsed, literally collapsed. Her legs gave out. Other people had to help her up. She held my face in her hands, looked at me, really looked. I saw the moment she realized, the moment she understood that her son had not come home, that something else was wearing his face. Her smile faltered, just for a second, then she forced it back, forced herself to believe the lie. We do not talk about it. Whatever happened, you are home now. You are safe. Everything will be all right. But nothing was all right. Nothing would ever be all right. That first night she made fish, my favorite dish from childhood. Grilled mackerel with rice and pickled vegetables. The smell filled the house. My father sat at the table, my younger sister. They were smiling, talking, asking questions. Where was I stationed? What was it like? Did I see combat? Was I scared? I answered in single words. Yes. No. Sometimes. They thought I was traumatized, shell-shocked. They were right, but not in the way they thought. I looked at the fish on my plate, the white flesh. The skin crisped from the grill. My mother had prepared it perfectly, with love, with care, the way she had prepared it for me my entire life. I put a piece in my mouth, chewed, swallowed. It tasted like nothing. Worse than nothing. It tasted wrong. My body rejected it, not because my stomach could not handle it, but because it was not what my body wanted, not what it remembered, not what it craved. I excused myself, went to the garden, vomited behind the shed. stood there shaking in the dark, tasting bile and fish, and underneath it all the memory of something else, something better, something warm and fresh and forbidden. That was when I knew that I had not left the jungle. The jungle had come home with me, was inside me, would always be inside me. My mother came out, found me, held me while I shook. She thought I was crying. I was not crying. I was remembering the satisfaction, the power, the taste. She said it would get easier. That time heals all wounds. That I just needed to rest, to recover, to forget. She was wrong. Time does not heal. Time just gives you more years to remember, more nights to lie awake reliving it, more days to pretend you are human while the monster inside you waits. I tried to be normal, tried to live. Got a job at a radio repair shop. The same work I did before the war. My hands remembered the movements, the precision, the patience. But I felt nothing. The satisfaction was gone. Everything was gone except the hunger. Not for food. I ate, forced myself to eat regular meals, rice, vegetables, fish, chicken, pork. My body accepted it, digested it, converted it to energy, but it was like eating cardboard, like chewing paper. There was no satisfaction, no fulfillment, just the mechanical process of fuel consumption. The hunger was for something else, something I could not have, could not admit, could not even think about without hating myself. But I thought about it anyway, every day, every night, at work, at home, walking down the street, looking at people and remembering what they were made of, what was underneath the skin and clothes and pretense, meat, bones, organs, 40 kilograms of protein, 50, 60. I hated myself for thinking it, hated the part of me that had survived, the part that had learned to hunt, to kill, to feed. But hating it did not make it go away, did not make the thoughts stop, did not make the hunger fade. I met my wife in 1947. Her name is Keiko. She worked at a bookstore near my shop. She was kind, gentle, patient. She did not ask about the war, did not push, just smiled and made small talk and slowly became part of my routine. We married in 1948. Small ceremony, just family. She wore white, looked beautiful. Smiled at me like I was a good man, like I was someone worth loving. I wanted to tell her, wanted to warn her, wanted to say, you are marrying a monster. You are sleeping next to something that used to be human, but is not anymore. Something that dreams of terrible things. Something that wakes up tasting blood. But I said nothing, took her hand, said the vows, became a husband, became part of normal society, wore the mask so well even I almost believed it sometimes. We had 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl. I watched them grow up, watched them learn to walk, to talk, to laugh, to trust. They called me father, climbed on my lap, fell asleep on my chest, trusted me completely. And sometimes, God forgive me, sometimes when I held them, when I felt their small bodies, their warmth, their heartbeats against my chest, sometimes I thought about New Guinea, about the clearing, about the rock and the knife and the steam rising from opened bodies. I never hurt them. Never. I would have killed myself first, would have walked into the ocean and not come back. But the thoughts were there, uninvited, unwanted, intrusive, the monster whispering, reminding me what I was, what I had been, what I still was underneath the pretense. I started avoiding holding them, made excuses, too tired, bad back, sore arms. Keiko thought I was distant, cold. She was right, but she did not know why, could not know why. I was a good father, that is what people said. Provided well, never raised my voice, never hit them, went to their school events, their recitals, their games, smiled at the right times, clapped at the right moments, said the right words. But inside I felt nothing. No joy, no pride, no love, just emptiness. A vast hollow space where those feelings should be. The jungle had eaten them, had eaten everything except hunger and memory and self-hatred. My oldest son joined the self-defense forces in 1968. He was proud, excited, wanted to serve his country like his father had. He asked me for advice, for stories, for wisdom. I told him nothing, said the war was a long time ago, that I did not remember much, that he should focus on his training and follow orders. He He thought I was being modest, humble. He did not know I was protecting him from knowing what his father really was, what war really does, what you become when everything human is stripped away. He served for 4 years, never saw combat, came home safe, got married, had children of his own. My grandchildren, they call me Oji-san. Grandfather, they think I am wise, kind, a survivor, a hero. They do not know their hero keeps a bone in a canteen, that their hero cannot eat meat without remembering, that their hero wakes up at 3 in the morning tasting blood, that their hero sometimes still gets hungry for things that should not be desired. 1984. 40 years after New Guinea, I attended a reunion of Pacific War veterans. It was held in Tokyo. Hundreds of old men, sharing stories, comparing experiences, finding camaraderie in shared trauma. I sat in the corner, watching, listening. These men talked about Iwo Jima, Okinawa, Saipan. They talked about bravery and horror and loss and survival. They cried. They embraced. They found healing in speaking the truth. I said nothing. There were no other men from New Guinea there, no other survivors from my unit. They were all dead, had been dead for decades. I was the only one left, the only one who knew what really happened in that jungle, the only one carrying that particular truth. A man sat down next to me, old, maybe 70, missing his left arm. He introduced himself, said he had been at Guadalcanal, asked where I had served, New Guinea, 43 to 44. His expression changed, subtle, but I saw it. Recognition, maybe, or suspicion. He had heard stories, rumors, about what happened to isolated units, about how they survived. That must have been difficult. The terrain, the isolation. The supply problems. Yes. How did you survive? What did you eat? There it was. The question, the one I had been asked 1,000 times in 40 years, the one I always answered the same way. Roots, insects, whatever we could find. He nodded, did not believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But he did not push, did not accuse, just nodded and moved on to another topic. But the damage was done. He knew. Maybe not the specifics, but he knew. Could smell it on me somehow. That stink that never washes off. That mark that brands you forever. I left the reunion early, went home. Keiko asked how it was. I said fine. Went to bed. Did not sleep. Lay there staring at the ceiling, remembering. Always remembering. 2005. 61 years after New Guinea. My wife had a heart attack, collapsed in the kitchen while making dinner. I found her on the floor, called the ambulance, held her hand while we waited. She survived. Barely. Spent 2 weeks in the hospital. The doctors said she needed to reduce stress, eat better, exercise, take her medications. She would be fine if she was careful. I visited her every day, sat by her bed, held her hand. She smiled at me, weak but genuine, said she was lucky to have me, lucky to have such a devoted husband, said I had always taken such good care of her. I said nothing, just held her hand. This woman who had loved me for 57 years, who had given me children, who had made a home for me, who had never known what she was really married to. She deserved better, deserved a real husband, a real human being, not a thing that pretended, that wore a mask, that hid a monster underneath. But I could not tell her, could not burden her with the truth. So I just held her hand and let her believe the lie, let her die eventually still believing it. She passed in 2011, quietly, in her sleep. I found her in the morning. She looked peaceful, content, like she had lived a good life with a good man. The funeral was large. All our children came, our grandchildren, friends, neighbors. They all said kind things about what a good woman she was, what a good marriage we had, what a devoted husband I had been. I stood at the front and accepted their condolences and felt nothing, just emptiness. The same emptiness I had felt for 67 years, since the day I stopped being human. After she died, the house was too quiet, too empty. The children wanted me to move in with them. I refused, said I was fine, could take care of myself. They worried, visited often, brought food, called every day. They did not understand. I needed the quiet, needed the isolation, Needed to not have people around because the mask was getting harder to wear. The monster was getting harder to hide. After 67 years, the exhaustion was overwhelming. Pretending to be human is the hardest work there is. 2020, 76 years after New Guinea. The pandemic started. The world shut down. Everyone isolated, locked in their homes, alone with their thoughts, their memories, their demons. For most people, it was torture, the isolation, the loneliness, the endless, empty hours. For me, it was relief. No more pretending, no more visits, no more phone calls asking if I was okay, no more wearing the mask, just me and the silence and the memories. I stopped eating regularly. What was the point? My body was 92 years old, breaking down. Why maintain it? Why keep the machine running? Just let it wind down. Let it stop. But it would not stop. Would not let me go. Kept going. Kept surviving. Like it did in the jungle. Like it always had. The curse of being good at surviving. You cannot stop. Not even when you want to. 2024. 96 years old. 80 years since New Guinea. My oldest grandson came to visit. Brought his girlfriend. They wanted to interview me, make a video, document my story for future generations. I said no. He insisted, said my story was important, that people needed to hear it, that I was a hero, that my experience mattered. I finally agreed, not because I wanted to, but because I was tired of carrying it alone, tired of the secret, tired of the pretense. 80 years is too long to carry something this heavy. So I am telling the truth, the real truth, not the sanitized version, not the acceptable story, the truth that makes me a monster, the truth that proves I should have died in that jungle, should have been one of the 188 who did not come home. My grandson is going to arrive in 1 hour. He is going to set up his camera, turn on his recording equipment, ask me questions, expect stories of heroism and survival and triumph over adversity. I'm going to tell him what I really am, what I really did, what I still am 80 years later. I am going to show him the canteen, the bone, tell him whose bone it is, tell him about Suzuki, about the girl who waited, about the photograph I burned, about the pleasure I felt when I killed, about the satisfaction, about the power. I am going to tell him about the 5 hunters, about Nakamura, about how I ate his liver raw while steam rose around me, about how good it tasted, about how my mouth waters now just remembering it. I'm going to tell him about the other 2, the ones whose names I have forgotten, how killing them became routine, mechanical, easy, how the intervals between kills got shorter, how the hunger was never satisfied. I'm going to tell him about coming home, about his grandmother, about his father, about how I pretended for 80 years, how I looked at people and saw meat, how I held my children and thought terrible things, how I have lived an entire life as a lie. I am going to tell him that I am not sorry. Not really. Sorry implies regret, implies you would make a different choice, but I would not. If I was back there, back in that jungle, back at that moment, I would make the same choices, do the same things, become the same monster, because that is what survival means, becoming the thing that survives, no matter what you have to do, no matter what you have to become. I am going to tell him all of this. Watch his face change. Watch the horror dawn. Watch him realize what his grandfather really is. Watch him understand that monsters are real, and sometimes they look like nice old men who tell stories and give candy to children. Then I am going to ask him to do something for me, something important. I am going to ask him to take the canteen, the bone, everything I have told him, and I am going to ask him to make it public. To tell the world, not to glorify it, not to justify it, just to tell the truth. Because someone needs to know. Someone needs to remember. Not the lie, not the hero story. The truth. What war really does. What people really become. What survives when everything else is stripped away. The sun has set. The room is dark now. I can hear Keiko in the kitchen. No, not Keiko. Keiko is dead. Has been dead for 13 years. It is just the memory of her, the ghost of her, the sound of the knife on the cutting board that never really stopped. Chop, chop, chop. I pick up the canteen, hold it, feel its weight. 80 years of weight, 80 years of memory, 80 years of pretending. I open it one more time. The bone falls into my palm. Small, white, clean. Could be from anything, but it is not from anything. It is from someone, someone's son, someone's future husband, someone who had a name and a life and dreams and a girl who waited, someone I killed and ate and have carried for 80 years. I bring the bone close to my face, close my eyes, breathe in. There is no smell. Bones do not smell after 80 years, but I imagine I can smell it. Imagine I can smell the smoke and the cooking meat and the jungle and the rain. And underneath it all, underneath the memory and the horror and the shame and the self-hatred, underneath everything, the hunger is still there. Faint, distant, but there, always there, waiting, like it has waited for 80 years, like it will wait until I die, and maybe not even then. Maybe it will follow me into whatever comes next, into whatever hell is reserved for things like me. I hear a car outside, my grandson arriving. He is here. Time to take off the mask. Time to let the monster show its face. Time to tell the truth. I put the bone back in the canteen, close it, set it on the table, the photograph next to it. 20 young men smiling at a camera, all dead now except one, the one who survived by becoming something worse than dead. The doorbell rings. I do not move, just sit here, looking at the canteen, at the photograph, at 80 years of lies. My grandson calls out, "Oji-san, we are here. Are you ready?" I take a breath, the first honest breath in 80 years. No, I am not ready. You can never be ready to admit what you really are, but it does not matter, ready or not. It is time to tell the truth, time to show them the monster, time to stop pretending I am human. The door opens. He comes in, smiling, carrying equipment, his girlfriend behind him, young, pretty, innocent, looking at me like I am someone special, someone worth knowing. She has no idea. None of them do. But they will. I gesture to the table, to the canteen, to the photograph, to 80 years of truth. Sit down, both of you. What I am about to tell you will change everything you think you know about me, about war, about survival, about what people are really capable of becoming. They sit, curious, concerned, still smiling, still believing. I pick up the canteen, hold it, feel its weight. This is a bone. It belonged to a man I killed and ate 80 years ago. His name was Suzuki. He had a girlfriend who was waiting for him. I have her photograph somewhere. I burned it after I finished eating him. The smile disappears from my grandson's face. Confusion, disbelief, horror dawning slowly. I am not a hero. I am not a survivor. I am a murderer. I am a cannibal. I am the thing that war creates when it strips away everything human. And I am about to tell you exactly what that means. His girlfriend's hand goes to her mouth. She makes a small sound, not quite a gasp, not quite a scream, just a sound of realization, of understanding, of horror. Good. That is the appropriate response. That is what you should feel when you meet a monster. Now let me tell you what monsters really are. Let me tell you what I really did. Let me tell you the truth that no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to know. Let me tell you about the hunger that never dies. And when I am done, when I have told you everything, when you understand exactly what I am, when the horror is complete and you cannot unknow what you now know, then I want you to tell everyone. Post it, share it, make it public. Let the world know. Let them see what their hero grandfather really is. Let them understand what war really does, what survival really costs, what humans really become when everything else is taken away. Let them know the truth, that monsters are real, that they survive, that they live among you, that they look like nice old men, that they smile and give candy to children and tell stories, and that underneath it all, underneath the mask and the pretense and the 80 years of lies, they are still hungry.